There are a few questions I would really love to ask you, and actually all the questions are for both of you. So whoever feels like it, just go for it. The first question is, please, describe a campus as a city. What would make a campus as a city?
A campus as a city. Well, actually, it's something that happens in many places. For example, one example is Stockholm, Kista Science Park. Maybe you know it. It's started as a science park with a university and companies. But then they said, well, it's a bit boring here. You know, after 5 o'clock, nothing happens. There's no life. There is nothing. So people started to think, okay, how can we make this area more attractive? So they started to build more shopping facilities. They started to add student housing, first for international students and then for other students. So there were more people in the campus always, not only during between 9 and 5. And then they took the next step and said, okay, maybe also there need to be more cultural facilities where people can do leisure, or there should be maybe a theater or a museum even, so that even tourists come to the area. So now they call it Kista Science City. So it became more or less a diverse area in its own right. This is the one example, but you see the same happening in many other campuses that started as quite boring academic places with only researchers and students, and then suddenly we found out that maybe this is not good anymore. We need more life here, so we make it more into sort of a city.
I would only add one thing, which is, as you clearly outlined, it doesn't happen by itself. It has to be planned. It's not going to spontaneously appear. So city planners working together with universities, with local sort of business owners, property owners, and so on, they have to have a vision of what they're going to achieve. Planning is important.
Where do you start such a planning project? Where is the kind of beginning, the point of design start in such kind of ambition to create a knowledge place? And maybe by answering, you can also give me a small example. What do you understand by knowledge space and knowledge place?
Well, I'm going to ignore the second part of the question. I'll answer the first, and then you can take either all of it or so on. Where does it start? Well, there are two things which you need. One is you need money. Okay, so you have to have some kind of financial resources, whether they be municipal, whether they be national, whether it be university, whether it be a loan, whether it be somebody rich deciding to give you lots of money, as tends to happen in the USA. But you need money. But secondly, you need to have this cohesive vision as well. If we're talking about the case of Latvia, then, we need to have these multiple actors working together in a cohesive way with a common vision if we want to develop our knowledge campuses.
Yes, I think you rightly point out the governance aspect. When you look at this Stockholm case, I think it was not so easy because you have the interest of the university, you have the city planning department, you have the national government that decides the investment of the universities and innovation. So there's a lot of players who have a stake in this field. You have developers who develop student housing or shopping malls. So you need to find a way to put them all on the table and to design something together that everybody is more or less happy with. So you cannot plan this top down or say, now we do this. I mean, the whole planning should be in a collaboration, and it should, in the end, result in some sort of vision and also co-investment. So this can also not only be the government that invests in everything. It needs to be, you have to share the risks and the benefits and the profits somehow. And this process of co-creation is the really hard thing. And then if you have a problem of a city that is, where you have constantly conflicts between city departments or between the city and suburbs that have a different governance structure. So this makes it a lot more complicated. And there this is a process of learning, I guess. Then you asked about the difference between knowledge places and spaces. Actually, it's not so clear cut, but when you speak about spaces, I think more about the microspace. So really the place where you work, the area of the building where you are. The building, or like a co-working space, for example, where you can see other people, where you have facilities that you share, or where you have lunch together. So that is more, on that level. And on a bigger level, you have the area or the city as a whole, which I would call a place. But the boundary is not always so clear.
Cool, thank you very much. The last question, very, very short. What can we destroy by creating such places? Can you gentrify area by doing such projects?
Crikey, that's a philosophical question. I wish my colleague Ivars Iops was here. He would give you a great answer for that. Instead, I'm going to hand it over to my Dutch colleague.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, what is at risk to be lost during such a project? Is there any risk actually to destroy something by creating something?
Well, one thing people say, well, maybe we destroy independent research. People are afraid that if academics work more with business, that then in the end maybe they won't be independent anymore. They will be more like, okay, they do what the business wants. This is an argument that we often hear. Or maybe the scientific quality gets down. And we know there is a risk. If, for example, if you look at medical research, there's a lot of medical research into areas that are interesting for pharmaceutical companies because they make money out of that. So the commercialization and the merging between a knowledge economy, the academic world and the economy has this risk in it. I would say it's an inherent risk. So it's the responsibility of the government to always reserve enough funding and make sure that also independent research can take place. Another risk could be that when we talk about knowledge economy, that all knowledge means economy. But there's a lot of knowledge that is more about culture, about, for example, cultural heritage, languages, things like that, archaeology. It's not so easy to transfer that knowledge into economy or money, but for us as humans, as curious people with a history, it's still important to keep doing these things, even if they cost money and don't bring economic innovation. So that is another warning, or maybe thing that governments must take care to prepare to fund also these kind of things.
Thank you very much. That was loaded. Thank you.